There we go. I believe that becoming a master agent is a 10-year plus project. So you're not going to arrive at being a master agent right away, okay? But it's something that is going to be an ongoing process as you get better, as you're seeing more clients, as you're closing and writing more business, and you're getting in the trenches more. But as you feel more comfortable, right? Let's say you're like a B, maybe a B or a C player in each one of these categories. That's when you're well on your way to becoming a master agent, and at that time, that's when you really want to start going and building a brokerage. But what does it mean to be a master agent? Okay, this is really what the core of all of our training revolves around. Okay, so first things first is new business acquisition, right? We understand that there's self-generation, which means we're going and talking to warm market. We're doing B2B, business to business, utilizing social media, financial seminars, community relations, networking events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We also have lead purchasing, and we are going to be having a training here in the next week or so where we lay out all of the approved lead vendors for final expense, mortgage protection, IULs, and annuities so that you guys can get running, okay? So new business acquisition, guys, this is something that should constantly be at the forefront of your mind. Number two is scheduling appointments, and this is a skill, okay? So how do I have an effective introduction? How do I create value, not just for me, first and foremost? Why do they need to talk to me? What separates me? But why do they need this product, right? Or this strategy or this solution? And the way that you help them with that is to deliver the WIFM. How many of you guys know what WIFM stands for? It's an acronym for what's in it for me, right, guys? It doesn't matter if you are the level selfish person on the earth, like the highest amount of selfishness in your body, or the most selfless person in the world. Everything we do comes out to WIFM, right? What's in it for me? Why should I do this, that, or the other? So if you can effectively get to the WIFM for your clients, what's in it for me, meaning them, then you're going to get their ear. Creating urgency, educating them, explaining the process, gathering the appropriate information, overcoming any objections, setting the appointment, right? So scheduling the appointment is really all of that. Now, the next is presenting in the financial seminar, and that's what we're going to finish up today, but that's educating, building to the application, covering the 4 pillars for retirement investing, presenting the illustration in such a way. But when you get to the end of the financial seminar, in essence, what you've done is you've presented a case, right? And this is right off the top of my head. What really fits and why this makes sense is because I'm listening to, actually for the very first time, a crime podcast. Show of hands or by just clicking the button. Any of you guys ever listen to crime podcasts? Anybody? Okay. So I got turned on to this crime podcast because somebody in our area, see, I live in an area called Collin County. And in 2000, there was a double murder that happened in our area that has been turned into a podcast. And it's amazing. I'm on episode 35 right now. Okay. And so every time I'm driving, I'm doing my cardio, I'm listening because I'm so captivated by it. But the reason I'm sharing this with you too, by the way, if any of you guys are interested, I'll tell you what it is later if you want to listen. But the reason why I bring this up is because it's about a case, right? It's about prosecutions, and it's about the defense team, and they have to make a case. And so when you're presenting a financial seminar, guys, you are in essence presenting your case. And so the idea is that at the end of the financial seminar, right, you should be in a place where the only obvious answer that the jury, right, has is, man, I should do this, right? I should move forward because this makes tremendous sense, right? And so that's what we want to do. We want to present a case so that it makes so much sense that they want to move forward. And we're going to talk about that. Now, the next is closing, right? asking the tough questions, getting somebody off of the fence, supporting or setting up the process, getting them suitability approval, right? And there's some tricks and tidbits and things that you'll learn along the way for suitability. And then finally is underwriting. And underwriting starts at the very beginning, completing the correct application, mistake and error free, understanding suitability. What does suitability mean? Suitability, it should say also suitability, understanding suitability. I'm going to make an adjustment here, and underwriting. Okay. Understanding suitability and underwriting. So when you're on the annuity side, they have to pass what is called suitability. That means, are they suitable for this type of financial move, right? And then you also have to understand underwriting, right? Underwriting is an approval on the life side, right? Do we want to insure this person? And so managing their mindset, their expectation, essentially writing clean business, because as you get into the business, and especially when you start building a team, you're going to be very cognizant of people who write clean business. Okay. Clean business means that they don't cancel, that it doesn't charge back. So everything we do is going to be revolved around these 5 points, right? Becoming a master agent is focusing and mastering new business acquisition, scheduling appointments, presenting the financial seminar, right? Presenting your case, closing, and underwriting. So with that being said, guys, tonight we're going to go back to our presentation. And instead of watching the actual video, I'm going to kind of hit some highlights for you tonight, guys. So I do want this presentation to be a little bit interactive. So get ready to unmute yourself or ask questions along the way. But I wanted to start with a setup that I've been using a lot when I get this rolled out, when I'm just about ready to start. I tell them, listen, guys, the purpose of our session this morning or this afternoon, this evening, whenever, is education, right? We want to make sure that you feel educated, because when you're educated, that builds confidence. And when you're confident, right, that's where action can happen. Now, we're not trying to say we want you to move forward on anything right now, but we do want to bring you to a place where you feel comfortable and confident so that you don't second guess yourself. So the majority of what we're doing is educating today. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to show you some illustrations, and I'm going to email them to you, and then we'll talk about the next steps down the road if, in fact, you believe that this is the right fit for you. So now we dive into the information, talk about our executive team, and you would be doing this as well. So let me share with you our CEO and our CMO. A couple of things here. They've been in the industry for over 15 years. They've helped thousands of clients, and they have a nationwide team that's based out of Prosper, Texas. And on this slide, I don't read it. And now when you're new, you probably will. But for me, when I get to this side, I say, no, so what really sets us apart, Mr. and Mrs. Client, my X factor, which really becomes your X factor, is that I am not captive to any one particular company. Meaning if I worked for Fidelity, I'm going to tell you why Fidelity is the best thing around, right? Well, that doesn't work for me. You see, I have access to over 50 different A-rated financial institutions, and I can provide different strategies. So essentially, I don't try to put a circle into a square peg, right? For me, I want to find out what's right for you, what's right for my client. And since I have no loyalties to any one of these companies, I will go find the right product, right? Or excuse me, the right client, company first, the right product, and then also then the right index to help you to meet your goals, okay? So what I'm doing right now is I'm differentiating myself and creating value for why they should be working with me. Now, the next is key points to understand. A couple of things that I'm gonna continue to, this is really important, guys, because these 3 key points which you've talked about, these are the #1 problems when somebody has an annuity, right? They're afraid of losing money, okay? They're getting a bunch of taxes and fees up the wazoo, and they have to grow, right? They have to grow more than inflation. So there's 3 things that will kill your retirement strategy: market volatility, taxes and fees, and inflation, okay? And I'm going to continue to make reference to these things as we go throughout the presentation, but just remember these three. So typically I go through 4 pillars for retirement investing, and I'm going to go through them in detail in just a few slides, but we want to talk to you about 3 ways to grow your money, the power of compounding interest, understanding losses and gains in the market, and understanding taxation and fees. So generally speaking, there are 3 ways to grow your money. Fixed, where I'm going to get 2.5%, 3% fixed no matter what happens. That's really good when the market's down because you're getting a couple points. That stinks when the market's up because you're trapped at a lower return, right? Now, 80% of Americans fall into the variable category because this is where your 401ks and your IRAs are. That just means your market, when the market goes up, so does your money. When the market goes down, so does your money, okay? Now, what we're going to talk about this evening is what we call indexing. Couple of things. Number one, this is unique to the insurance industry, okay? And so what that means is that you're not going to see this type of strategy with your local Charles Schwab or Fidelity representative. Number two is this is not to be confused with an index fund. See, an index fund is just a different type of variable account. Indexing essentially means that when the market goes up, you make money. When the market goes down, you plateau, right? So what I always say is you grow, you plateau, you grow, you plateau, you grow, you plateau, right? I even told one of my clients today, I'm going to make a t-shirt that says grow or plateau, right? That's all you want to do. You want to grow or plateau. That's it, okay? Now, sometimes people ask, well, how does that work? Well, the simplest answer is this is no longer cash. In a variable account, your money has been turned into stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. In an indexing strategy, okay, in an FIA, right, your money is sitting in cash in an account. So when the market goes up, they credit you the interest, and when the market goes down, that cash just holds its value. That's the simplest way to understand, okay? Now, this particular slide I like to share, I say, hey, have you ever heard anybody say, you know, if you stay in the market long enough, okay, you'll always win? Yeah, yes, okay. So this slide is essentially meant to challenge that philosophy, right? The idea that if I stay in long enough, I'm always going to win. So if you had a variable account, right, that could be an IRA, 401k, and just as a presenter tip, we've already done their financial needs analysis by this point, right? So I'll know if the person has a 401k, if they've got an IRA. So I would say, like, let's say for you, Joe, you've got a 401k. So let's say this is your 401k and you had $100,000, right? That just means that it's variable. So when the S&P goes up, you make money. When the S&P goes down, you lose. So right out of the gate, you see here, then it goes back up to 1999. We all remember what happened in 2008, right? The bottom dropped out. Okay, then we grew back to 219 and then dropped again at 168. Okay, now this is very important, guys. One person asked me this question, and at the time, it stumped me. Okay, then I went and I did a little digging because, you know, if you do this, going from 100 to 168 over the course of 21 years, it's an actual it's actually 2.5% rate of return over 20 years. Somebody said, well, if you do the math, it's not 2.5 because 2.5% of 100,000, right, is $2,500. Okay, well, you grew 168. The way it looks is it's an annual I've presented this 100 times. One time somebody's called me on it, right, and at least just asked me about it. What it is year 1 to year 2, it went from 99 to 90 or 100,000 to 98. There was a percentage loss there. Then to year 2 to year 3, it went from, as you can see, right, it just kept going down. So every year it's 2% loss first year. By the end of next year, it was another 3%. By the end of the next year, it was another 4%. So it's annually. And then that also works in the same way when it goes up, right? So this year, it's already, since I started this, I'm down 25%. But then I'm back up by 2%. The next year, I'm back up by 3%. So when you do that year by year, by the time you get from 100,000 to 168, you're only up 2.5% on your money over 20 years when you're looking at a year by year basis. Okay, so again, hundreds of presentations. Somebody asked me that one time. So now when we compare apples to apples, if you had $100,000 in an account that was being indexed as opposed to being variable, you can see right out of the gate that you're going to end at a very different place. Okay, so what's the difference? When the index drops, okay, you're losing money, or excuse me, when the variable account drops, you lose money. But instead, this index holds at the same time. This one made a little bit of a run. This one made a run, but just at a different level, ultimately leaving you at 340,000 or 168. So I usually tell them, like, listen, which track would you rather be on? Well, obviously the 344, right? Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is understanding losses and gains in the market. Okay, so you guys have seen this before. Couple things that I want to point out here. So when I go through this, I literally just on this first one say, if this year you lost 25%, taking you to 75, what if next year you gain 25%? Are you whole again? 9 out of 10 people will say, yeah, lost 25, make 25. You're back at even. No, you actually need 33% growth off of 75,000 to make 100. Okay, so there's two rules that I go over here. There's two things that people are working up against, right? Rule number one is it takes more to recover from what you lost from. So if you lose 10, you probably need 12, right? If you lose 15, right, you need probably 20, right? If you lose 25, you need 33. So rule number one is you're going to have to make more than you lost just to get back to even. But rule number two says this: historically, when you look at the S&P, anytime there's more than a 15% loss, it'll take you 8 years to get it back. So not only in this equation would I need 33% growth, but I'd also say it's going to take me 8 years for that 33% to catch up. So then I'm saying, well, so Luis, you said here that you're 57, right? So would you rather, okay, or 58 years old, would you rather be to 66 and get your money back, just becoming whole again? Or from 58 to 66, would you rather be stacking growth on top of growth? Okay, oh yeah, I'd rather be stopping growth on top of growth. So the first couple of slides, and I say this, remember there's 3 things that kill your retirement strategy: volatility, taxes and fees, and then inflation. So these first couple slides, we're talking about volatility. This is why we know that you look here, this slide and this slide, okay, shows us that your money, that volatility can kill you the closer you get to retirement. Okay. Now I'm going to cover 2 more slides and then I'm going to open it up to questions before we keep going. So the power of compounding interest. Okay. I usually say, have you ever heard of the rule of 72? 9 out of 10 people say no, and I think the 10th person who says yes just says yes, but they really don't know. They just say, oh, that sounds familiar. Okay, so the rule of 72 is a basic math equation that we use in our industry to help people to understand how quickly or how slowly your money will double based on the interest rate that you're earning. So for instance, if you were earning 1% interest, okay, you plug it into the equation, 72 divided by 1, comes out to 72 years. So if you had 10 grand in a savings account, 72 years later, it's going to double to 20. My corny joke that I say every single time is, I like to say, sir, I hope you open this account when you were 6 months old so that by the time you pass on, you could see it double, right? No, we know this is not good. What if we were earning 4%? And again, going back to what they have. See, a 4% is very much like a money market account or a CD, which you have. So you're getting them to see, okay, this is where I'm at, okay? Or a very aggressive fixed rate. Plug it into the equation, 72 divided by 4 comes out to 18. So at 72 years, you're at 160,000. That's a lot better. Now notice when I go from 4 to 6%, I'm just moving the needle 2 points, okay? And plugging it into the equation, that means my money's going to double every 12 years and at $640,000 at 72 years. Now, one of the things that I point out to people often, how did you move the needle just from 4 to 6, 2 points, and it grew that much? Sir or ma'am, write this down. Your money always has to grow at 6% or more. That's where the tipping point is. That's where the snowball is. If you're growing less than 6%, you are losing. Why? 3 things that kill retirement strategies: volatility, we've already covered that. Taxes and fees are coming next, but this one here is inflation. Your money's got to keep growing to stay ahead of inflation, right? And then finally, 12%. If you were getting 12%, you plug it in, your money would double every 6 years. And at 72 years, you would have $40.9 million dollars, right? And this is, I just say this is just simple math, okay? I know it sounds unbelievable, but it's math. Math and numbers always add up, right? Now, one thing that I always point out to them, and again, I'm building value for our product, okay? By the way, you guys know that I am recording this, so I'm going to put it out. I love that you're taking notes, but remember, I am going to send it out to you guys as well. Do you notice that, so Patty, you notice that it's 10, becomes 20, becomes 40, becomes 80. It's not 10 to 9 to 11 to 8 to 15 to 9. No, it's 10 to 20 to 40 to 80, right? The only way to truly capture the power of compounding interest is to eliminate loss. And the only way to eliminate loss is to index. Well, wait, Mario, can't I eliminate loss by doing a fixed rate? Yeah, but you also eliminate growth because you're no longer capturing the growth of the market, you're stuck. So the only way to do that is by using the indexing strategy. And the only way to use the indexing strategy is in the insurance space. Ding, 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 ding. Again, building more value, right? In fact, this is why Albert Einstein said compounding interest is so important. He called it the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Okay. Now, I'm going to hit a timeout real quick. Stop sharing the screen. Throw it over to you. So far, any questions on what we've covered? It's all very much information that most of you have already seen before. There's a couple of new folks here. But I believe in repetition, okay? I believe that the way you get good is finding 4 or 5 things and getting really, really good at it. That's why we don't sell Medicare and PC and home and auto and listen, no, we're going to just have a couple of things and we're going to become ninjas at it. So any questions on what we've covered so far? Anything you want me to go over again or anything like that? You good? All right, cool.
I just wanted to say or ask, I guess, on the where you added the 2.5% on the growth and loss on the S&P 500, was that the addition where that client gave you the knowledge to add that to the slide?
Yeah, you were on it with me, weren't you? So I was on with somebody when they asked that. I thought I was at least.
No, it wasn't us, but I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything there. That was something that was you were just explaining why you put the 2.5%, correct?
Yeah, I don't no. 2.5% is the actual return, as you can see. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the actual return. Somebody one time said, wait a minute, if you grew your money by $68,000, that's more than 2.5% growth. And it's because they're just taking it at face value. This was created based on a year-by-year process. So every single year, there's like a running total at the end of every year. Okay, and because of the losses you've sustained and the growth that you've sustained year after year, 21 years later, you're only up 2.5%. Okay, because you have to recover. So that's all. I was just giving you that. Now, again, don't use that in your standard presentation.
No, I just wanted to understand what you were saying. I won't use that. I was just trying to like understand what you were saying.
Yeah, I just had somebody call me on it, and it took me off guard. So I just wanted to make sure you guys understand that.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Anything else? Okay. Are y'all awake tonight, or what's going on? Are you watching football behind the screen? Just kidding. All right.
There's no football on tonight.
Oh, you're right. Otherwise, you'd be watching it, right, Chris? Just kidding. Well, there's basketball and hockey. There is basketball and hockey. I know that because I flew here from a baseball coaches meeting for my son's team, and it was full because hockey's on right now, the Dallas Stars. All right. So fees. Now, when you're talking to somebody about annuities, this is very important. And again, I'm tying it to them. Okay. So I'm going to say to them, so Louis, The next thing I'm going to talk about is fees. I call it the invisible thief. And it's particularly important to you because where your money's at right now in this IRA, and this 401k, you're being charged fees. Okay. So we go through it and I say, first thing I want to do is I want to show you how powerful your money could grow if you had zero fees. Okay. So $3,600 annual contribution is $300 a month. Okay. It's not crazy, right? If it grew at 8% for 35 years with no fees, it would grow to $669,000, right? Again, because you're being charged no fees. But what if you were being charged 0.95%? Now, mind you, and this is another thing that I say, that, and for me, guys, we're presenting a case, right? Have you guys ever watched like a crime, movie of some sort? And when the prosecution, I'll say one. Have you guys ever watched Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix? Dude, he was a stud. The prosecutor, right? Or he was a defender. And when he is interrogating a client or cross-examining a client, he's so stinking intentional about little things because that's how you sell something, right? So it's the little things that I've learned is where you make all your money. So in here is another little thing. So by the way, clients, I mean, most people, if they were being charged 0.95%, they wouldn't even bat an eye, right? Because 0.95%, it doesn't even sound aggressive. It's not even 1%. Here's what they're saying. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because you know why I'm right? Because the vast majority of people don't even know what they're being charged. So they don't know if 0.95% is high or low. They're just like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't sound aggressive. Well, listen, if you had this same growth, 3,600 growing at 8% for 35 years, but you were being charged 0.95%, you'd pay $140,000. Notice the amount of money you would have to retire on. They're like, whoa, right? At 2%, you'd pay $259,000 in fees. $410,000 would be left for you to retire on. And at 3%, y'all don't even want to see that. You would pay more in fees than you do have left to retire on. Okay. That's incredible. Now, here's another thing that I tie into people. Sometimes you're going to have somebody say, well, yeah, I've got a brokerage account, or I've got some money under management. Have you ever had anybody say that to you? I have money under management. When you hear that, okay, know that they have two, charge any fees because he's not working for the company anymore. That's ridiculous. That's ignorance, Sharina. That's ignorance. Tell him to get you a statement and you'll prove that it's wrong. Unless, I take that back, unless he is, it's a self-directed account, but I promise you there's still some type of fees embedded in them. So what I typically tell them at this point, okay, is there's usually one and sometimes two sets of fees you're paying. Number one, there's always a fee associated with the actual IRA itself, the actual 401k itself, just by itself, okay? Secondly, some people have money under management like you do. You see how I'm kind of turning the knife there? And what that means is that the person who's managing your money, like supposed to be making it grow, is also being charged a fee. What I found is the average person is from about 0.5 to 0.15 or 0.15, 0.5 to 1.5%. Okay. But the idea is you're just getting their wheels spinning. But here's what I say, by the way, client, in a few minutes, you're going to see this, but the recommendation I have for you has 0 fees, 0 charges. And all that means is all of this money here gets to stay up on top. You get to keep it to retire. Building more value, okay? So this one here, I just kind of go through all the products that we have. I'm not going to necessarily, or not what the products we have, but what we do. Here's a key point that I want you guys to share when you go through this. Number one is just to keep you out of an area where you don't feel comfortable. And if you don't feel comfortable, usually people lack confidence. And if you lack confidence, then you don't feel like you're in a place of posture or power. When I get to here, And it's actually the truth. Business owner strategies, these are all things that Wences works with. Okay, so we do all of these, but remember my our CMO from the beginning, Mr. Navarro, he does a lot of work with business owners, helping them, because the last thing you want is to be talking to a small business owner, and then he says, oh yeah, I've really been looking into that executive double bonus, tell me about it. And you're like, right? Well, it's okay, because we have a division for that. It's under Mr. Wences Navarro. Let me write that down. We can talk about that with him later. See how quick that is? So I always say that, like, my business partner is the one who handles all the business owners. And if you have any questions there, we can talk about it later. So let's talk about my recommendation, fixed index annuity, FIA. So first off, what is it? It's a financial instrument issued and backed by an insurance company that provides protection, growth, and income for life should you decide to turn on that switch. Number two is an annuity is not an insurance policy, even though it's issued by the insurance company. It's just another product that they offer. An annuity is not an investment, okay? Because remember, your money is no longer in the market. An annuity is very much like a promise to pay contract, kind of between the client and the insurance company. Here's my example always. It's kind of like this. Okay, so Mr. Insurance Company, I've got, and I look at their paper, $300,000. And I'm considering putting it in your vaults and housing it with you. But if I do, what are you going to do for me? What benefits are you going to give me? Well, here they are. You see how it flows? I'm telling a story. I'm convincing them that this is the right route for them. Number one, it provides a guarantee against loss, a ground floor, okay? And this is what we talked about at the beginning. Remember, you said you want to grow your money, but you want to grow your money while at the same time figuring out how to never lose again. So here's the first part, check, right? Number two, allows the client to participate in growth using the indexing crediting system. Number three, no fees or charges, okay? And it's designed to provide income through a process of protection, accumulation, and annuitization. But remember the three things that kill retirement growth? Number one was market volatility. Number two is taxes and fees. And number three is inflation. Don't you notice that all these benefits take care of those three things? Provides a guarantee against loss, market volatility. Allows the client to participate in growth using indexing, inflation, right? You got to grow more than inflation. And inflation is never going to go away. The only way to beat inflation is to outgrow it, right? So that's what that one goes, right? No fees or charges, right? Ever, okay? Very important. There's charges and fees. And then I say it's designed to provide income through a process of protection, accumulation, and annuitization. So what does that mean? Protection, ground floor. Accumulation, indexing, growth. Annuitization is over a period of time. Okay, it's a long-term process. So some more benefits, you're guaranteed to walk away with your initial premium. You can reset the index that your money is mirroring every year on an annual basis to try to maximize growth. It's guaranteed against loss, and you can flip on some riders for some long-term care coverage and expenses. Now, before we go into the closing slide, okay, let me stop one more time, and let me throw it to you guys. Questions. Who did we lose? Did we lose somebody? Looks like we lost somebody. Okay. No, there was one other person who slipped out. All right. Any questions?
I do have a question regarding on the fees. Now, if you're only ever presenting to them like the power accumulator, that's one thing. But if you were planning to show them like the accelerator that had a 0.95% fee for lifetime income, what would you say in those slides to set you up for that? Because, as to not like undermine the example when you showed how fees would eat into their money.
Well, I never show that either way, but it comes back here. How did I present this portion? Income for life. Should you decide to flip on that switch?
Gotcha.
It's their option. They can decide to do it or not, right? But I've never even had to stop there. We just keep on moving because when we get to the end, I don't just show them income for life, right? See, a fee is something that is being charged regardless. A rider is something you're buying. So you're getting something for it.
Right. Yeah. So like it's a fee is something that has no that it's like a charge with an absence of value, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And number one is they're having the ability to choose to flip on this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is even that. Imagine if you could choose to pay your fees on your 401ks. No, right? They're just charging no matter what. Here, number one, you can choose to flip on the 401k, um, or the second thing would be you can. Oh, you know what? I know who I lost. It was Jasmine. I lost Jasmine. Okay, so but the other thing is that you're actually getting something of value. So you're actually getting a guaranteed income for the rest of your life. But if you don't want to do that, you actually can do all the things we talked about with no fees. But I'm telling you, it's never come up. It's not been like, well, I thought you said there was no fees, right? No, it's you're selecting that because of what you want. But the base of this product has no fees at all. No fees, no charge. Good question. Really good question. Anybody else?
I have a question, but not, I mean, it has to do with this, but not your presentation. What if they say they don't like annuities? Like,
Why
they're
would,
like, oh, I don't care for annuities.
well, then they're not listening to you because they're
No,
not.
before, I'm saying before we even get to the presentation, if they've like mentioned that they don't like annuities.
Well, why? First off, I'd say, why don't you like annuities?
I think, okay, so I did say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
He didn't have a valid reason.
no, I'm asking you, why don't you like annuities?
He didn't get, he was just like, oh, I just don't like
Yeah.
I was
Well,
like,
okay. Well, that
okay,
doesn't make sense. But
yeah.
so if he couldn't answer, then I'd say, okay, well, if you can't answer, then you're probably just kind of hearing other people talk and you really don't know why, and that's okay. I still would encourage you to go through this process because here's what I know. Annuities in 2023 are not annuities in 1980, first of all. Secondly, these are fixed indexed annuities, which are different from any type of annuity that the guy over at Fidelity or at your HR department or at your credit union tried to show you.
Or
Those
at
are
State Farm.
the traditional financial advisement, right? Annuities. These are under the insurance umbrella. I promise you, what I'm going to show you is something you've never seen before because it's a completely different product. And even if you did look at an annuity that's under the insurance umbrella, it's like saying that a Chevy Silverado from 1978 is the same Chevy Silverado from 2024. Okay. And I know personally because my uncle had a black Chevy Silverado from 1978, and I've got a 2024 sitting in the driveway. They are not the same truck. Okay. Same name, different truck. So let me go through the process. Let me educate you. And hey, if you still don't like it, no problem. But at least you'll know why you don't like it. Smile and keep on moving. Okay. All right, good. All right, anybody else? Good question. All right, so now last thing we're going to cover, guys, is this, and this is our close. This is where you start bringing the heat, okay? So why should we consider making adjustments? Like this is like our closing arguments, right? What do they always say? You know, they have their closing arguments, and at the end they say the defense rests, right? So this is where you say, you know, the ultimate question is, these guys have been trying to tell you yada yada, and you kind of they go into massive like illustration moment, like they're being actors right here. You are pitching them on why this is the only thing that they should even consider. Okay. So number one is this. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard of the term fractional reserve banking? No. No worries. Most people haven't. Fractional reserve banking is essentially the rule or the law, the regulation that has been in place forever that regulates the banking system. And it basically says that they have to keep a fractional reserve banking, of your money in their vaults at all times, and the fraction is 10%. Well, did you know in 2020, because of COVID, the federal government stepped in and said, you don't have to have that reserve anymore. Why? Because they said, take that 10% and go lend it. Try to make money with it to keep the doors open. And it wasn't until 2022 that the federal government started to recommend that banks replenish that reserve. In fact, Patty, do you remember at the beginning of 2023, 5 banks went down? Yeah. The first 2 were Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. They went down because of this. Essentially, they had exhausted their reserve. People came a call in and they didn't have any money to settle. This is scary because right now there's really no way for us to tell if our money that we see in our balance is actually in the bank. Now, then somebody would ask, well, how safe are the insurance companies then? Rock solid, because they are also guarded by a regulatory standard called the State Guaranteed Fund. 2 things that are different. Number 1, it's never been compromised ever. And number 2, they don't keep 10%. The insurance company has to keep 75%. They are so rock solid. Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of BOLI? It's an acronym. No. It stands for Bank Owned Life Insurance. Okay. And the insurance companies are so strong that the banks, and I can provide you documentation. I always say this, Luis, when we get done, can you put these those screenshots in Signal for the group, please? Where it shows Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, B of A, all of the banks were investing billions of dollars into the insurance companies. So much so that the federal government had to step in and put restrictions on them, because they said with the amount of return you're getting and the amount of money you're putting in, these banks are going to become monopolies, so they had to stop it. So my question to you, Mr. and Mrs. Client, is if my bank and yours are investing our money into the insurance companies so much that they had to get regulated and restricted, how come we don't know about it? And they're usually like, by this time, people are like, what in the world? Are you kidding me? Right? Here's why. Because if we knew about it, the banks couldn't make money off of our money. So simplified, sometimes people say, Mario, what do you do for a living? Real simple. I take take people around the banks to the life insurance company so that you and I, everyday people, can earn like the banks do. People are usually pretty jacked about that. So in my opinion, nothing else provides protection against loss, growth opportunities, income for life with no fees, like a fixed index annuity. So now, what did you like most about what we covered? That should be the very first question you ask. What did you like most? Now we're going to go into your illustration right now, but what did you like most about what we covered? Okay. Why do you think I asked that question, guys?
So they can start talking themselves into it.
Yep.
If they say it, it becomes it carries a lot more weight.
Absolutely. Right. I've always said, hey, what do you like most about it? Oh man. And here's what they say. Oh, protection against loss. I mean, right? That's my favorite thing too. Okay. I asked the very next client, hey, what did you like most about what we covered? Oh, indexing. That's my favorite too. Right? What did you like most about what we covered? No fees. Mine too. That's what I love the most. You're coming into an agreement with them. You're both partnering up. We're locking arms right now, right? And so then we would go through the illustration. Next week, I'm going to go through an illustration, because even though I'm going through the illustration, I'm still educating and I'm still selling. Because by the time we get to the end of the illustration, I've now like put them into a corner. I don't even have to ask, do you want to do it? Because, why would you not? Here's another way, and this is also a part of my presentation. Maybe some of you guys have not seen it. Obviously, I've got to do a better job with it. I got to make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. But I always finish with this. I always say, so client, before we finish up and we get you the information, I'm gonna share with you a slide. Okay. Now, my first mentor in life and in business was my dad. Okay. Or is my dad. He's still alive. I don't want to say was. And he always said, Mario, you have to show people apples to apples. So let's look at what you got now. You've got a variable account. They really fall into two categories for the masses, mostly, right? 401ks or IRAs. So let's take a look at this. Can you lose money with a variable account? Yes. Can you make money? Absolutely. Are there charges and fees? Yes. Is there a cap to growth? No. Are there bonuses? No. Now, on the flip side, let's take a look at your other option, indexing, right? Indexed accounts. Now there's two, and what we're looking at is FIAs. Can you lose money? No. So when you, and I always do this. So when we look here, yes, no, I think we got to put a check mark here. Can I make money? Yes, yes. Okay, so we'll put it equals. Charges and fees? Yes, no. Another check mark. Cap to growth? No, no. Okay, we go equals. Bonuses? No, yes. Check mark. So if all we're doing is taking your money from one tax deferred account to another, it's kind of like this. My mentor said, Mario, you have to help your clients understand they're just taking their money from their left pocket and putting it in their right pocket. Why? Because that left pocket is this one here. Got a couple holes in the bottom of the pocket. So money kind of falls out. This pocket also, they charge you. So not only are you losing money in those holes in the pocket, but they're charging you. And they don't give you any bonuses. But if you move your money out of there and put it here, now they've sold up the holes in the pocket. And they also don't charge you anything. And they add in a little bonus money every year. Why would you not? It's real simple. Okay. So that said, we are done. Okay. 9 minutes before it's out. It is recording. So let me go ahead and stop the recording.